which is okay. That's how internet started too, right? And back in the days. But in the future, we will see the more community comes together, the more protocols comes and work together, and then we will see the different world, right? Everybody will be have their own DAOs, the communities, and we can talk to each other in different way.
Yeah.
Like there is a political issues, right? And some internet can be shut, right? How can we communicate? Like how can we ask how are you in a different type of world, right? With Web3, we will be able to be unstoppable. We will be able to communicate with everyone. And this is the important message.
Yeah. Nice. Jonathan?
I think that we should always be aware as well that there are different kinds of communities, right? There are community of traders. There are community of gamers. There are community of people who want to learn Web3 or crypto particularly. So I think it depends who are you're targeting. That's where you can design your message for these communities. In terms of strategy, I think you need to understand what are the needs of these communities. So different communities, they have different needs. So once you understand it, then you can design it after.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the way that we see it is that a community, you really want to find a way to bring ownership to the community. And so for us as a Web3 product with our own token as well, the idea really, and this is the way that we see it for other businesses with tokens as well. It's like, how do you distribute your tokens? And you see this in incentive strategies and airdrops. I think some panelists were talking about this before.
Yeah.
And it's typically very unsustainable, right? You have campaigns to get people to go follow you and to do this and do that, but then they don't actually materialize to be your end user or a customer. They don't actually provide any long-term value. So the way really that we see it, so a little bit just of context of like what our product is. We built a white labeled incentive tool to help products, scale, and they can use our tool to incentivize on-chain transactions. So they could basically say, like, I'll give you $10 cashback for a $100 purchase, or I'll give you $2 for a referral. And the tool just allows people to incentivize users. But really, like, coming back to community, the way that we see it is we want to trade our token, right, which represents some form of ownership, in exchange for US dollars, right? So we're happy to give our token out as incentives, but only to users that are going to pay, or users that are actually could drive some form of value. And in turn, what ends up happening is the users that hold these tokens end up having rights, right? They might have voting rights. They might have access to revenue share. They might have access to special features on the product. So these are actually users that are engaged, with your product. So I think community is actually very interesting in Web3. I haven't seen anything like this before. And you mentioned cult, and a lot of times it's a very fine line between the two. In fact, Peter Thiel talks a lot about this cult, that needs to be built as well, for successful startups.
Go for it.
I wanted to ask Nick. I know you're moderator here, but I might take our
He's part
panelists.
of he's moderator.
Yeah, I know, but I want to hijack. We'll do it differently.
Oh, you're asking the questions now?
She's now the moderator.
I'm going to ask you a
All right.
question. So you in the Web3, I know that you have your newsletters that I'm reading like on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So you see lots of communities, you interact with many people, and obviously with the startups. What do you think the hype? And our actual panel is about startups, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think the most challenging for startups in 2024, as in your vision? And what is your favorite startup? Like, and what is it? Gaming? Is it metaverse or maybe DeFi?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in terms of startups and community, it goes back to what Jonathan said, right? You have to define your niche. You can't be too many things for too many different industries or different silos, right? You have to break down the silos, but you as a startup, you're needing to be clear with your expectations and your added value so that your community members are there with you during the bull market and throughout the bear, right? Some of my favorite communities got me through the bear market, right? Everybody was around when the bull market was there, but it was some of those communities that stuck around, that continued to add value, that continued to build each other up. that kept me going and kept me a cult follower or a loyal follower of it, right? My favorite startups, I think, are the ones that are helping startups. I know that sounds like a non-answer, but I think because we have a problem which is really plaguing this space for a long time. Every cycle, you see one cycle, the narrative is DeFi, and then it's gaming, and then it's NFTs, and all these startups come and go, right? And they just attach metaverse to their name, or they attach gaming to their name, but they run so long, and they run out of gas, and they fall victim to the same thing, which is not sustainable vision and no lasting values. So I think that there's a real need for educational startups that will come in. They'll be that bridge between Web 2, Web 3. They will be the ones to help coach others along, perhaps from their own mistakes or from what they've learned collectively. And I think those kind of startups are great because it's almost like a network of networks. They don't discriminate between, I'm GameFi, I'm DeFi, I'm DPen, I'm just into Ripple, right, or whatever, right? I think those are the things that we need to look more of. Like, what kind of ecosystems are we using as an umbrella that helps onboard users? Because if we're going to make it, we need to make it together. And there's a big educational gap. There's a big divide between what we think, is value, and then what the average user needs to get over that hump and understand that value. Yeah. That makes sense?
Nick mentioned a very important thing about
well done.
education.
Great question.
Great
You gotta
answer.
know.
I love it.
Oh, I think Nick mentioned a very important question about learning or educating the community,
Yeah.
right? Well, like what I mentioned, there are different kinds of community. Well, I remember this because there are also community who want to attend, let's say, events or partner with other companies who are attracted to rewards. And there are also communities who want to attend events because of free foods.
Yeah, no, for sure. Or T-shirts.
Which is good for marketing because that's where you can start educating them once they're already in the venue or in these platforms that's available right now in the market.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important until right now, since this is a development industry, it's a continuous development technology, education is still necessary until right now. So from blockchain, all this DeFi, NFT, Web3, RWA, all these things it's actually new to all of us, right? And technically, I'm not expert in all of these things. Until right now, I'm also learning, in those areas and those aspects. But for the communities, I think it's very important that we establish an education platform for us to educate more of them, so that eventually there's something new that will benefit each other.
Absolutely, right? And to build off of that, you don't have to know everything, right? You just have to know the right people to connect those people with.
But you have to admit that you don't know everything, right? Because this is a key.
I don't.
Right now in the space, we tend to be like, I know everything. No, you just admit that you don't know this. That's why you're going to experts. You need to ask for help too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.